Hi everyone, my name is Ice and this is Story Elixir. So this is going to be a little different today because I'm trying out a new thing. Leave constructive feedback below. A minor update, I guess. I am moving the channel in more of an analytical direction where I wish to analyze the games I'm playing a bit more. Most likely not live, but anything I do recorded wise, which is going to be happening more frequently, I would like it to be more analytical. However, I felt that a good thing to do alongside that was to also talk about storytelling, what makes good storytelling, what could be improved in stories, these kinds of things. And I wanted to start with the bare bones basics today of just what a story is, what function does it serve, why is it important to analyze stories, these kinds of things. So we're going to start with just what is a story, and at its foundational level, if you strip away all the characters, if you strip away all of the plot, if you strip away even things like grammar and technical writing, a story is fundamentally a conversation between the writer, author, storyteller, whatever you want to call them, the creator, and the audience. This is not an equal conversation because one is in fact the creator of a world and the other one is just a person who gets to experience it, but it is a conversation. Could be a mean to Sora. Please. Ow. Rude. Anyway, that conversation is the thing that is worth looking at as an analyst, as a story analyst. And I am not talking necessarily about technical skill, although that is important. You should, in fact, look at technical skill because that helps with comprehension, that helps with clarity, that helps with fundamental understanding of things. Like, if the writer can't write very well, it's really hard to keep a clear direction. It's really difficult to figure out what the author is trying to say if they speak in gibberish, basically. So technical writing is important, but I am talking on a more foundational level. So assuming the technical writing is serviceable, I'm not even saying it's good, but just it works, you understand it, then that's the kind of level we're looking at right now. So we've gone over like basically what a story is. It's that conversation that matters. But here we go into like, okay, but why do we care? Why does it matter? So when it comes to like the purpose aside from that, usually it's a couple of things. One is just entertain. There are plenty of stories that exist as what I like to call narrative junk food because they're like potato chips. You don't eat a potato chip for nutritional value. You don't eat a potato chip because it's good for you. You eat a potato chip because it's, tasty. It tastes good. That's it. Is it probably empty calories? 100%. Does it make you feel good? Also 100%. You like potato chips, or if you don't, whatever snack you want, really. I don't know, chocolate. But there are some stories that do just exist on this very shallow level, and that's okay. They are just as valid because let's be real, you don't want your stories to always be thought-provoking because that gets tiring. Nobody likes to listen to that 100% unless they're me. I like that stuff, but I am me. But sometimes you just want something that is simple and good and tasty, super comfy. And there are stories like that and they are just as valid. But there are other ones that are designed to like educate. And I'm not talking about those really cheesy 90s educational videos that were barely stories at all. I'm talking like foundational myths of a culture. Because oftentimes when they didn't understand something, ancient cultures would go, oh, it's this because X, Y, and Z. The volcano erupted because Hephaestus was working in his forge. We have high infant mortality rate because fairies come in, kidnap them, and replace them with changelings. Whatever. It's a way to explain things. There's a reason why nearly every culture has some kind of creation myth because they were trying to say how the world got the way it is. A lot of cultures also have various things about the edge of the water having dangerous creatures, and it's because they don't want people to drown. So you have a lot of these cultural myths that are like the bedrock of a culture. Like there is no culture if there are no stories about a culture. There's a reason why historically, whenever an individual wants a culture to kind of come together as a united nation, they either use existing stories and kind of put them all together, or they create new stories as kind of an origin myth. It works. It becomes glue for a culture. Is it always accurate? No. Does it do the unification thing? Yes. So stories are foundational to culture as well, as kind of an educational tool, but also as just this is who we are and we relate to this. Quit being a bully. There we go. Another one is essentially people are trying to communicate an issue they see that may not be getting the attention that the writer, author, whatever feels like this thing deserves. Usually it's about an unrepresented group or a part of history or whatever. But this is also kind of that educational thing where they're talking about, like, a lot of dystopia falls under this, where like they see something wrong with society and they want to fix it. But because they want to fix it, they're going to write about it. So it's another kind of educational kind of thing. Only this one's more society-based rather than trying to explain the world. Now, the last question is, why does any of this matter? Why should we care? What's the benefit? Well, that's honestly pretty easy. The first point for that is it helps an audience that maybe already likes this story, or heck, maybe doesn't quite like it but wants to understand. It helps an audience appreciate the piece of work more. Even if they already appreciated it, that level of depth rewards an audience for looking. And for those who may not get it, at the very least, it's something that you as a person can learn from, either from a technical standpoint or from an actual more broad thematic kind of standpoint. Maybe you don't agree with the themes, but they're a really good writer. And so, analyzing the text allows you to kind of really dig into that technical writing to go, oh, I don't like what they're saying, but how they did that's really clever. Whatever. Same thing on the other side. Their technical writing might not be great. They might have a hard time crafting a scene in a prose kind of way, but their message is crystal clear, which is also really important to acknowledge and figure out. So even stories that, you may not like, there is some merit to them, usually. Every once in a while you'll run into a story that, no, it has no merit at all, but that's rare. To say that about a lot of different stories is a little insane, because no, most stories have some merit on some level. This is still somebody who has spent possibly years of their life to craft a thing. Very rarely do they just make trash for the hell of it. Another thing is, if an author is acting in bad faith, becoming practiced at analyzing text just as a general practice lets you be able to see that bad acting sooner. Like, if an author is promoting hate, if you are used to analyzing text or a movie or a show or a game or whatever, anything with a story, if you're used to doing that, you're gonna recognize, hey, that's a little wonky. That's not right. Like, you're gonna notice these things easier and faster because you're practiced. You're using that part of your brain. If you don't practice it, then you either are going to figure it out significantly later, or you're not going to recognize it at all. So giving like a good try, right? Like truly practicing, not just half-assing and saying, oh, I looked at it. Giving it a true try and really digging into it and really figuring out, hey, what's happening? Why am I not getting it? Why doesn't this make sense? Why don't I like this? Or you could do the same thing for things you do like. Why does this resonate with me so much? Why do I like this? Both work, but figuring out that why, actually asking the author to explain themselves, in the text, or in the show, or in the movie, or in the game, figuratively, don't go bother people. But analyzing it further allows you to better answer those questions across multiple stories. And it makes it harder for those bad actor writers and storytellers to essentially pull the wool over your eyes is anybody immune to propaganda and hate speech and, you know, bad actors? No, of course not. Everybody falls for something, including me, including you. But it makes it more difficult. Being educated makes that harder. Not impossible, but harder, which is what matters. And lastly, it's so that stories that do have merit, stories that do matter, are able to be like they're able to actually talk about what they want to talk about. Like, I can't imagine how much it sucks for an author to have their point completely glossed over or misunderstood. Like, it'd be like if you're trying to talk to someone that you know you share a language with. So me as an English speaker, if I tried to talk to somebody in English, in plain English, and they totally misunderstood what I said and then acted like I had offended them, like, that would make me feel really bad. And that's kind of how it can be sometimes with stories. Like, for someone to put a lot of work into something and then it just not be understood. Or hell, if nobody cared about it. Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine talking into a group of people that you thought would get you and then they just don't? Like, yikes, that's some bad. So it also allows for that conversation to happen, because if it's just the author screaming into the void and everyone else is just like, you know what, I don't gotta listen to you, and just ignore them or misunderstand and then think that they're right, like, oh my goodness, that would just drive me mad. So it also kind of allows that conversation to happen. Like, if we are willfully ignorant of what the author wants to say, then we have failed as an audience. And we'll get into more of that more technical stuff. This is just kind of an introductory, like, yo, this is like the bare bones of storytelling. But I will come back to, why does this work? How does this work? And I will give like examples. But right now I wanted to really dig into just the basis of storytelling, why analyzing matters, and how we as the audience can be better, because we can. But anyway, if this kind of video is something that you like, go ahead and leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you want to see more. I will also be going back and doing analysis on past playthroughs, and I will probably be redoing them, not live. I will be doing them probably in recording and kind of zhuzhing them up a little bit, making them a lot smaller than they are, because a lot of my older stuff is like an 8-hour video or a 6-hour video. And I'd like to kind of condense that down. I'd like to make them better. I'd like to have my nicer setup that I've been spending a year getting. And I'd like to do more analytical things with it, probably in possibly like arcs or sections of a game, and then do an analysis of the game as a whole when I'm done with it. I'm not quite sure how that's going to go yet, but that's the goal. That's the aspiration. So if you want to see more of these things, go ahead and subscribe. Anyway, have a good night, everybody. I hope to see some of you in the future. Bye.